Hey there everyone, here is Henry, also known as the Etika Boy. So thanks for being part of this live stream, and just so I'm sure, please send a message in the live chat telling me that everything is alright, so you can see the screen and the audio is also working as expected. That will help me to know that everything is working fine and we could get started. So please just write the message in the live chat. Tell me that everything is alright, so we can get started. Is the audio working as expected? Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Or can you see the, I don't know, just let me know please, so I can really be sure that everything works as expected. Is everything working as expected, guys? Please let me know in the chat. If not, I think I'm just going to consider everything works as expected, and we'll start directly with the building of the control. Alright, so I'm sure everything works as expected. I hope at least. And without wasting time, because it's already 3:30 on my end, we are going to directly get started. So as I said before, please feel free to drop a message in the chat, and I will respond directly. Okay. All right, everyone. As I said, I am Henry. I am pleased to take you through this course, I can say, or through this video, and I am really excited to show you how to build a control from a package. So I hope you are really excited to know how this is done. And without wasting time, we are just going to get started. Okay, so now the introduction. So here's the Flet roadmap over here, and as you can see, we have evolved. We have really evolved with time. Today we are going to be focusing, as I said before, with the new controls from the package, or controls built from packages. So the audio recorder and the video have already been implemented. I did that personally. And today we are going to be looking at this over here, the Lottie control. So I'm going to close the roadmap since we don't need it. So this is the issue created for the Lottie control. Let's have a look at the package for that. So the package being used is the Lottie 3.00, as you can see. So Lottie for Flutter, you see the package is kind of cross-platform, Android, iOS, Linux, macOS, and web, Windows. So it's really cross-platform. This is a very important feature you need to take into consideration when bringing in a package. Always make sure that the platform is cross, so it supports, or it can be run on almost every platform. So the mobile platforms, the desktop platforms, and the web platforms. It is very, very important. So looking at this package, you can see Lottie for Flutter. Let's kind of read a little. So Lottie is a mobile library for Android and iOS that parses Adobe After Effects animations exported as JSON with body moving and renders them natively on mobile. So I'm seeing a question in the chat. How can we use our custom controls with serious Python? Using the custom controls with serious Python, I think the control you're bringing in must first be bird, so included into the Flet version, into the, how can I say it? So when you build a control like the Lottie we are going to be building today, it needs to be merged in the Flet repository or in the main Flet branch. And from there, I think the next Flet version released with the control you added, you will then be able to use it with serious Python. So I think that's how it works, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to move on with the package over here. As you can see, it works on Android, iOS, macOS, Linux, Windows, and web. All right. So here's the usage. The usage is also a very important part because you need to know or you need to understand how the package is to be used. So the Lottie, for example, has a very simple usage, and that's actually the reason why I chose this package. Because as you can see, so you don't need that of Flutter knowledge. I mean, you don't need a very deep that of Flutter knowledge to understand what's happening over here. So with Flet, you already know about the list view. You already know about the children. So in children over here is the same as controls in Flet. And you can see the open brackets for the children or for the controls. And you can see this is how we use the package, or this is how we use the Lottie widget, the Lottie Flutter widget. And that's what we are going to be implementing. So you can see when using with an asset, with a local asset, we just say lottie.asset. When using from when the Lottie is from a URL, a remote URL, we just give the URL with lottie.network. And here is another one, assets with a zip file. So we have two main, as I can see from here. We have the assets and we have the network. All right, so it's really easy and you need to import it over here. So we're going to look at that. Over here, specify a custom animation controller. This example shows how to take full control over the animation. So this one, I think we are going to leave this apart. For now, I mean, for the first part of this Lottie control, we are going to leave this apart because this is quite complex. It's quite complex, I think. So we are going to focus on really adding this basic Lottie.asset, Lottie.network, and all the parameters or all the properties this to take. Okay, so moving further, control the size of the widget. So you see it takes other properties. We are going to have a look at all the properties they take. Width and height are optional and fallbacks on the size imposed by the parent. Yeah. So custom loading, the Lottie widget has several convenient constructors. Lottie.asset, Lottie.network, Lottie.memory. So these are the three we are going to be looking at today, or the three we are going to be implementing today. Okay. Sometimes you may prefer to have full control over the asset Lottie, and you may use a composition file. So we are going to leave this out. We are just going to implement this. For now, I really went for a start because I want to keep everything simple just to show you the important aspects, the important stuffs. Okay, so here we have the custom drawing that we are going to also leave it out. Modify the properties at runtime. We are also going to leave this out. So a question in the chat, how long will this live podcast last? I think something close to an hour. because it takes close to an hour of time to build a control, or to implement a control from a Flutter widget. So close to an hour because I have to take time to explain everything detailedly, and I think it's going to take probably close to an hour. All right, so we are just going to leave I'm going to leave all of this out, and we are going to focus just on the important aspect. So the first part is to copy over here. You copy this, and then you move to your dev environment. So I move to PyCharm that I'm using. And the first thing, please make sure to update your Flutter version. So the latest Flet version, I think it should be 0.20.2 at the moment. It uses the latest Flutter version, which is 3.19.0. So please make sure you update your Flutter version, and at the same time, you need to update your Flet version. So you need to synchronize your fork with the latest Flet repo, or with the latest version of the Flet repo. And from there, I just did it a while ago, and you have the 3.19.0 version of Flutter. This is very important. If not, you're going to receive a lot of errors. So I created the branch over here, the Lottie Control branch, and we are going to be building inside this branch. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to open. I'm going to reduce this over here. So the first thing to do is to come over to the packages. So you see your Flet. If you remember from the setup video, I mentioned over here you have the Flet, and you have over here all the packages. So all the packages that Flet uses. So all the packages that Flet uses. Wait a second, please. I think I need to create a new branch. Seems like, oops. Seems like, I don't know. Just this second, please. I don't know why it shows. Okay. So we're in the Lottie branch, and over here, I don't know why it shows. I'm going to delete this. Okay. So what you do now is to copy this Flet audio. So you can copy anything because this is kind of a template. So we need to fill all these files and edit them respectively for the new package you're introducing. So you have the Flet audio over here. You copy this Flet audio folder and you paste it still in the packages. So each Flet package, or each new control which comes from a package that you introduce in Flet, should be added to these Flet packages. So you need to add it over here and rename the file, or rename the folder. So I'm going to paste it inside this one and rename this to Lottie. So it says add files to Git. Yes, I'm going to add files to Git, just leaving it as is. And we are going to start modifying each of the files. So over here, the first thing is to move to the popspec.yaml. That's where we need to add the package, the corresponding package we are adding today. So you copy from here, this, you're going to copy it to your clipboard, you move to your popspec.yaml. You remove these audio players because audio players is not needed in the Flet Lottie. So you remove these audio players and you replace it with the new Lottie, or with the new package we're introducing. So PyCharm proposes me over here pop-get, so I can get all the packages. So it should download all the packages and remove the audio player packages, or they remove the audio player package. So as you can see, it introduced the Lottie and removed the audio player. So these packages are no longer being supported. So once you've done that, so that's the first step. Then you move to inside the README. You also need to modify this to Lottie. So almost everywhere you need to modify audio to Lottie. So you come over here. This Flet audio needs to be renamed. Reformat, you rename it to Flet Lottie. Over here, you rename this to Lottie. And inside the create control, you need to modify this case. So everything, really everything inside this folder needs to be modified from audio to Lottie because we are copying from the audio. So you really need to modify everything from audio to Lottie. So this is the case of the control. I'm going to show where this comes from later on, but first modify this to Lottie, and we are going to modify this control. Instead of audio control, we are going to say Lottie control. So here is the file over here, lottie.dat, and inside here, audio players is not more supported. Need to remove it. And instead of audio control, we are going to say Lottie control. So I'm going to rename all instances, I think. Replace all. Yeah, replace all instances. And then we are going to import the Lottie package. So you saw over here, the import, this is how you import the Lottie package. So you can copy this, move to your PyCharm or move to your IDE. And over here, you paste it just anywhere for now. You paste the Lottie over here. So we are going to remove everything from the audio control that from which we copied. Remove everything, all the unnecessary stuff. So really everything, we are going to clean the whole file before introducing what we are about to introduce. So I'm going to remove all of this. Let me look at where it stops. So I'm going to remove really everything, and we're going to start from scratch. Let's remove everything over here. The return, remove all of this. And from here, we are going to remove quite everything. So the source and the source base64, we are going to leave them for now because we will need them when building the Lottie control. So all the remaining guys, you can feel free to remove all of them. And because there's nothing inside this deactivate, I'm going to remove it, the deactivate. There is nothing inside the remove, so there's nothing to remove actually. So I'm going to remove really everything. So this instead, going to remove it also. All this initialization stuff, going to remove them. And over here, we don't have, I think I'm going to get rid of this too. Okay, I think that should be all for now. So inside the create control, you need to rename this also to Lottie control. There's nothing to initialize. If there was anything, you will have seen it over here inside the package documentation. So there's nothing to initialize. You can leave it over here, nothing to initialize. So this file is already good. This one over here too is, we're going to add the Lottie control over here, the Lottie widget. Over here, you see, you need to modify also the name of this library. So from Flet Audio to Flet Lottie. So I'm using Codium, by the way, for the auto-completion. And all of this is exported correctly. Yes. Okay. The next step, so before we move to include adding the package, you need to move inside this Flet and inside the, where is it found again? Not inside Flet, but inside the client. So from the client, the lib, inside the main, you see over here, here is the initialization of all the packages. So although there's nothing to initialize, where is it found? Although there's nothing to initialize, we still need to include it just in case something needs to be initialized later on. So over here, you need to include the Flet Lottie initialize. I think we need to import the package also. Create local variable. Over here, you move to the imports. Let me copy one of them and paste, modify to Lottie. Flet Lottie as Flet Lottie. So it says target doesn't exist, Flet Lottie. It normally work. Going to look at that, and just before we end, Lottie control, Lottie create control. I don't know what's wrong over here. Try creating a file reference. Oh. You need to move over to the popspec.yaml and over here include the Flet Lottie package. So copy just one for the formatting, or to know how to format it. You then include the Flet Lottie. Flet Lottie, double T, and here you include the Flet Lottie package. And you press on pop.get, so pop-get, and it says error inside the Flet Lottie popspec.yaml. So let's move to Flet Lottie. Here it is, popspec.yaml. Over here. So the name needs to be modified also. So really all instances need to be modified to Flet Lottie. So over here we have the Flet Lottie control. Over here we have the Flet Lottie. So this is the latest Flet version. I think that should be all for now. And here is our Lottie package. So I think that's all. I don't know if I have to press pop-get again. Not that necessary. But now it should work. Over here, popspec, pop-get once more. Okay. So you can see the error is gone. We're going to reduce this. So inside the client library, so lib main.dat, you need to add two things. The create control, this one is a reference to the case. We looked at it a while ago. Here's the Lottie, the create control. So it's for this Lottie control. And another thing you need to add is the ensure initialized. So just these two things. And over here, you import the package, obviously. So that's all for the main.dat. You can close this. The pop spec has been updated successfully, so you can close this. Over here, the create control, that should be all for now. I'm going to close this so that we can just see the essential things. Okay. So now let's use this Lottie package. Let's really use it in our application. Then move back to the documentation. And you can see over here, this is how it is used. We are going to start with the URL form because it's the easiest, so we don't have to create an asset file for now. So this is how you use it. So saying lottie.network, and you directly use it in your application. So that's how simple it is. It's a really nice widget, really easy to use widget. So over here, let me remove this first. I'm not going to use it for now. So over here, I'm going to say return lottie.network. So this one already suggests. So you return lottie.network and you need to give a URL. So the URL, we can try this URL they gave us over here. Oh no, let's use the SRC instead. So over here, the SRC. So in Python, we are going to create the Lottie Python control, or the Lottie Flet control for the Python end, and we are going to provide the SRC as a link or as a URL, and we are going to see how it will be rendered. So this is all for now. I think I can remove the unused imports. Okay. I really think that should be all for the dat end. That's how simple it is. So there are other properties, as you can, so hovering on network, you see there are lots of other properties. We are going to look at them later on. But first we want to make a first test. So to ensure everything works as expected for a first try. So you move to the Python section. For the Python section, you open the SDK, the packages, Flet core, and inside the SRC, this is where you're going to create the Lottie control. So Lottie is quite similar to the audio because it has SRC and SRC base64. So we can copy this audio file, because I don't recommend to start from scratch, because starting from scratch, it's quite difficult. You just copy. What I recommend is to copy what has already been done, you paste it, and you make the necessary modifications. So over here, for example, we are going to remove everything except the source and the source base64. So you can see over here, we have the source base64, remove everything before. Going to remove all of these guys, get duration because we don't need them. Okay, and by the way, this get control name, you definitely need to modify it. If not, because here it says audio, but we are building a Lottie control, so we need to modify this to Lottie. Why is it important, you may ask? It is important it is important for this over here. So if you leave it as audio, or if you forget to modify it, this Lottie control will never be built. It's going to instead build the audio control, and you definitely don't want that. So make sure to modify this get control name always. This is very important. If not, you are going to get a lot of false results. So over here, I'm going to remove all of this, rename this to Lottie. Yeah, it goes to the case thing. Yeah, exactly. It goes to the case as you said. So that's why it's important. So you modify over here the online docs Lottie. We have not yet created this, but just modify it for now. This release mode is also not necessary. And we're going to remove really everything apart from SRC and SRC base64, because we are going to need them later on. So SRC, this is SRC. I'm going to move SRC base64 up, because I like to put the specifics up and then the common properties down. I find it quite logical, so that one can directly make use of them. So over here of this, then we have I'll rename that to common. So these are the common properties below. And I actually think this, instead of control, we are going to use a constraint control, because the Lottie is a visual control in compared, when you compare the Lottie and the audio is a non-visual control, so you don't see the control. That's why it's not a constraint control. So you cannot give it a width, you cannot give it a height, for the audio. But the Lottie control, it's actually something that we are going to be able to see in the application, and we want to permit the developers, or we want to be able to modify the width and the height, or modify all the constraints. So what we are going to do is modify this from simple control to constraint control. I'm going to import this. And over here, I also need to modify this to constraint control. And now you're going to see it's not complete, because the init takes a lot of things. So that also, you don't do it from hand. Let me remove all of this first. You don't do it from hand. You go to any constraint control thing over here. Perhaps the container, it's a constraint control. And you copy all of these guys. All of this, you leave out the content, because the content is container specific. So you copy all of this, because all of these guys over here are passed below to the constraint control. So that's exactly what I want to do. So we'll copy this, move to Lottie, remove these guys and paste it over here. Reformat. And we are going to make the imports later. Copy all of this and paste it over here. Okay, so that's it. Now we need to make the necessary imports. Import this from typing. Import this. Let me actually copy it so that we don't waste time. This one is necessary. Okay, so everything is working now as expected, or everything has been well done. Perhaps optimize the import, so remove all the unused imports, and that should be all. So we see inside our Lottie control, we have the SRC, we have the SRC base64. That's just for a start. We gave the Lottie control a name, and here we have the SRC. So this is the getter of the SRC property. This is the setter, the getter, the setter. So you just leave everything as such. And by the way, if you didn't watch the last video on the competition navigation bar, I just want to briefly explain these properties. So this property you see over here, the get attribute SRC, you're going to see it exactly here. So this is how it is parsed in Flet. So you see over here, we say widget.control.attribute string. Widget, this widget.control is actually because we are using a stateful widget. If this was a stateless widget, it would have been just control, but that's not really important. Over here, you see widget.control.attribute string. This is how we pass strings in Flet. So SRC is a string. You know it from the audio control. If you've used the audio control in Flet, you definitely know that SRC is a string. This is how you pass the string, and over here, when you hover over it, you see this is the default value. So this over here is the default value we are giving the SRC. Same for the base64, we are passing it with this SRC base64. So all of this are actually lowercase internally, but we always name it with the camel case. So you see the camel case naming. So S is small, and then you have the base, which is big. So SRC base64. All of these are lowercase internally. So even if this is B, small b, it will still be the same thing, or it will still work, but it's a convention to name it with the camel case. So SRC, and then you see over here big B. So that's it. And what we are telling over here is simply if the SRC is empty, so SRC has not been given, SRC base64 has not been given, then return. So instead of returning the Lottie control, you cannot return the Lottie control because there is no URL given, there is no source base64. So return an error control telling the user, hey, the Lottie must have either SRC or SRC base64 specified. Okay, so I see a question in the chat. I got a question, by the way. Audio recorder is not visual control, but it works with page.add. So audio recorder, I implemented it to be used in the page.overlay. So if you just have a look, let me actually show it. Audio recorder, it is found over here. Where is the file? Audio recorder. Okay, if you look at it over here, you're going to see a size box is returned. So actually you can use it because this is a widget. This is a size box. It's actually a widget. It's a Flutter widget. So it says creates a box that will become as small as its parent allows. So these controls that we add to the overlay, you can add it to the page, but they are non-visual controls. So they will have no space. They will occupy no space in the Flet application. So you see over here, we return similar for the audio recorder, we return a size box to shrink. So it's a non-visual control. You don't actually see this in your application. So I haven't tried it with the page.add audio recorder. I always do it, or I implemented it for the overlay. But if you add it to the page, using the add, and it works, then yeah, it should work because this is a widget. So a widget is actually returned, so it's not a problem. But it's recommended to add it to the overlay. I hope I answered your question and you got it. So actually a widget is returned. It's not like I don't know how to say it. A widget is actually returned. So this size box is a Flutter widget. it is actually returned your application, but because it doesn't occupy space in the application, because it is non-visual, in Flet we classify all non-visual controls inside the page.overlay. So the page.overlay takes all the Flet non-visual controls, then the page.add takes all the visual controls. So that's kind of how we separated the Flet controls. I really hope you understand it better now. So let's move back. So over here, we've done the basics. The next step now is to move to the init, and you need to import it. So I got it, your message. Okay, thanks. So you need to import it, you need to export it inside the init. Actually, all of these are classified in an alphabetical order. So if you want, you can just put it anywhere, or you can use the Visual Studio iSort. But for now, let's just leave it because we are just testing, or we are just trying to understand how everything works. So over here you see fletcore.lottie, you just import it. Later on you can use the VS Code iSort extension to sort everything as it is done in Flet. Okay, so I think now we are done with everything and we are ready for testing. Okay, for the testing, I'm going to open my terminal. So I have my 2 terminal sessions, as I explained in the setup and in the Cupertino navigation bar videos. The first terminal is the client, so you need to point it inside the client. So the client, we saw it a while ago, this is the client. You need to point it over here to the client. And the second is the playground. So the playground is found inside here. So the playground, this is it with my test changes file. You can see it from here. So Flet SDK Python playground, and then you have your file which you're going to use to test the changes. So over here, this is a new property I was bringing in yesterday. We don't need it for this video, so I'm going to clean it. And we are going to add just the Lottie control. So remove all of this. The first thing I usually add is the window always on top, because I don't want to be clicking every time. And the next thing, page.add. And we're going to say ft.lottie. Give it src. So I don't know if this suggested URL works. I'm going to copy the URL from the documentation, because I know this URL certainly works. So copy over here, paste, and from here you try your application. So as I said in the setup video, you run flutter run. So you type the flutter run command to see all the available devices. So I'm on macOS. I see the macOS over here. I have no wireless device connected, and I have the web. So maybe towards the end of the video, I'm going to connect my wireless device to show how it looks like on Android or iOS. But for now, we are going to stick to the macOS, so the desktop. So I have macOS, and I can test on Chrome for web to ensure everything works. And please, when adding a package, always try to test on all the available platforms. So this package works on all the platforms, so you need to try your best to test at least on your desktop device, you test on web, and you test on a mobile simulator. So please, it's very important just to make sure everything works as expected. So over here, I'm going to press 1 because I'm on macOS. I think you should see maybe Windows or anything, Windows or Linux for your respective systems. And on macOS, so if you're on macOS and you run this, you're going to see this error message. So you're going to see this error. A second, let me show it. You're going to see kind of error messages popping up. Just ignore them. They are not really important. The main thing is the application runs. But as you can see, the application is running, and this is it over here. This is the window, but nothing shows up. If you've watched the last two videos I made, you certainly know why this is not showing, or why the application is not showing. Just because we didn't run, we didn't open, so we didn't run the playground or the test file. So you need to say poetry run, flet run, the port is 8550. You give it the W flag for the for the web, and you give the name of the file, test changes. So my file is named testchanges.py. You can name it as you wish, but just make sure you modify it over here according to your file, according to the files you have. So you see over here, it says unknown control Lottie. It says it over here in the web because we have not built for web. So if I instead said Flutter build or Flutter run for web, it was going to show. But because I'm not building for web at the moment, it doesn't recognize this Lottie control. So I'm going to reduce this. The main thing is the window, application window. And you see over here, this is the Lottie control, or this is the Lottie animation showing up. So I have my page to Windows always on top. I'm going to just put it somewhere here. Let me modify the theme mode so we can see it a little more clearly. Light, and you can see it has instant hot reload, and this is it. So this is our control where we are just from adding. It works as expected. From now on, we can start building, or we can start incrementing new properties, or we can test perhaps on from the assets file. But now we are sure that everything works as expected, and this is very important. So don't build a lot of things, don't add a lot of properties when you don't know, or when you're not sure that it works, at least for the first time. So I always do it as such. I build a very simple, you can call it MVP, I don't know, but you build a very simple example to try it, and it works. So for now, we are going to test from the assets, but it's not going to work. If you test from the assets directly, it's not going to work, because over here we are using the network. So we need to bring in a way to separate the network and the asset files. So it was shown in their documentation over here. Where is it? It was shown over here. For the assets, you say lottie.asset, and then you give the assets path. For the network, you say lottie.network, and you give the Lottie path. Okay, let's move back to, we are going to add the possibility to provide an assets directory or an asset path. Let me reduce this. And over here, instead of directly return the network, we are just going to remove it for now. We are going to say return with page args. I don't know if it has been added. Okay, with page args, with the double brackets. Okay, so you say with page args. Over here, let me look at the, so you see it takes the context and the page args model. So just so you don't have to remember it, I'm going to remove it. We are going to go to something similar. So this behavior is done, for example, in the image or in the audio control, but I prefer the image because the image shows all the possibilities. Let us move to the image. The image should be found inside the Flet controls and image. So really, you don't need to know a lot of that, or you don't need to have a wide Dart knowledge. You don't need to have a broad Flutter knowledge to understand how this is done. You just need to know, okay, what I'm about to do in the Lottie has something similar has been done in the image, for example. So you move to the image, you copy what has been done in the image, and you bring it inside the Lottie or the control you are building. And this is the same for properties too. So over here, this is the necessary path with page args. So why is this important? As you can see inside the image, it says over here, if source base 64 has been given, this is how the source base 64 is passed. So we are going to use this same method to pass our source base 64. And you see, if it contains SVG tag, this is not necessary. And over here, if asset.src is fine, then we are going to use it as such. So let me copy it. I'm going to explain all of it inside the Lottie section. We move to Lottie.dart, and from here, oops, you add this. So with page asks why this is possible, so you can use it because we are using this mixing, but you don't need to understand what mixing means or anything. So over here, let's move step by step and remove all the unnecessary things. So this is for the source base 64. So all of what is found inside these two brackets. This is for the source base 64. You see over here, we say try and we pass. This is how the source base 64 is passed. So we are going to import the necessary things. And from here, this is about the SVG tag. SVG is image specific, so we don't need it inside this. So we are going to get rid of this one, this section. This is the image.memory. So Lottie also has, it was said in the documentation. Where is it found? So it says over here, Lottie.memory. So we are going to do exactly the same thing. So Lottie.memory, and by the way, modify this to Lottie, and from here you can say Lottie.memory, and you pass the bytes over here. So for now, all of these properties, we don't need them. So we are going to remove them for now. So this, it catches the error control. So error decoding base 64. So if a wrong base 64 has been given, then we are going to try to pass it. But if it doesn't work, then return an error control. An error control is simply this red control with white text showing, or with the message we are giving over here. So the next thing is this is about the SVG picture. We don't need this. So let's get rid of it. Let's leave just this else. And from here you see assets SRC. So this is for the assets file. So by the way, when using this with page arcs, we are using this because we want the possibility to get the assets file. So it helps us pass the assets file better, because as you can see over here, let me show it. Over here, you see the assets file is always given. So this is how it is done in Flutter. But in Flet, we have this assets D that we are using. So we don't want our user to always give the assets folder. In Flet, we don't specify this assets folder every time. So we use the assets D, and from here, we can use it as such. So that's exactly the same behavior we are trying to reproduce over here. So you see, over here it says, let me rename it to Lottie. This is for the SVG. If it ends with SVG, then it's an SVG. It's an image that contains SVG, but we don't need it also. So we are going to get rid of this case over here. All of this. So the important part here is just to see how it is used. So you see over here, we use it as asset.src.path. So that's just the important part inside all of this. I'm going to clean this file. Say from file, Lottie, Lottie.asset, not Lottie.asset, and then asset src path. So this is how you access the src path. This is how you access the path from. So this src.path is going to give, let me show it. So this src.path is going to give this path, provide this path to the Lottie. So a user is just going to specify, for instance, this over here. The user is going to specify this JSON, and the assets src.path is going to provide all of this, because this is how it is used in Flutter. So this is for the URL. For the URL, it's also quite simple. You just need to pass the asset src.path. So you can still copy it. You see the network. This is the network over here. We are going to modify it to lottie.network, and you use the asset src.path. So what I'm going to do is remove everything inside here, leaving just URL, and say lottie assets.path. So that's how it's done. And here we have the constraint control, context, clip corners. So clip corners was for image. You get rid of it. You pass the Lottie instead. The Lottie we are just on creating. And over here it says parent doesn't exist. This is simply because we are in a stateful widget. And in a stateful widget, you need to precise widget.parent widget.control. You can see that from here. This is the control, this is the parent. And because we're in a stateful widget, we precise and say widget.parent widget.control. So that's kind of a Flutter specific thing, but you just need to know how it functions. So as you can see, let me reformat it. So we have three things. If the src path has been given, so if the src base64 path has been given, we pass the base64 path, or we try to pass it, and then we return this Lottie control. So this Lottie will now be this Lottie from bytes, and it's going to be passed over here to the constraint control. If an error occurs, we return an error message or an error control with an error message. This else is for the case where src base64 has not been given. So we are going to use the src. Using the src, you get the assets source. So you get the assets directory, you can call it like that. And from here, this one will contain the path to your assets. So if assets.src, if assets src is file, so this one is testing if the file what has been, or what the user gave as src is actually a file. So if it is a file, then use.asset. Else, so if the user didn't provide a file, then the user certainly or probably provided a URL. So we are considering the case, okay, it's a URL, and we use lottie.network. So that's it. We are going to try that right now. So you move to your terminal, and inside the client terminal, so what concerns Flutter, you press, let me press H so you see all the possibilities. I explained this in the setup video. You press capital R for the hot restart. So I'm going to press capital R. It's going to perform the hot restart. It still works because now it's passed correctly. And by the way, if you want to debug, so when debugging in Flutter, or when debugging inside your application, you just need to add one thing. You say debug print, and then inside here you paste or you print what you want to print. For example, let's say Lottie src. I like to put it in capital case or as capital so that I can easily locate it inside. So you say Lottie src and you print the src. Let me rebuild this so that you can see it from here. And you see, here is it over here, Lottie src. So this is how you print things, because when developing or when building a control, you might want to print things to see if everything works as expected. So you use the debug print, and you specify, you just give it a string, and it's going to be printed over here. So you see our Lottie src is the string that's been given from Python, from the Python end. So we don't need that. Let's get rid of it and rebuild the application. And inside our test changes, we can try to give a file or an assets file. So inside this assets, I took this created this Lottie test.json that we can use. So I'm going to move to the test changes, specify an assets dir, specify an assets directory as assets, not like this. as assets, and from here I'm going to try this Lottie JSON, Lottie JSON, how is it called? Lottie test.json. So you see, so I save the Lottie file as a JSON. This is how it is, very long, and you can see it works as expected. So we are done with the SRC and the SRC base64. So the Lottie control works just as expected. So what we are going to do now is to add properties, so new properties to the Lottie, so that the user can specify more properties if he or she wants. So from here, let me reduce this a little. Okay, hovering over the network, for instance, you can see it takes a URL, that's the assets.path that we are giving already. It takes things like animate, it takes things like repeat, reverse, etc. We are going to add one by one. So if you want to have a look at it from your browser, you can move to the API reference, because everything is not mentioned inside that README. You move to the API reference, and from here you open Lottie, and you can see something like where is it found? Lottie. And inside Lottie you can see we're in the network, for instance, and you see each property. This is each property over here, so you can see them and directly read the descriptions. So animate, for instance, which is a boolean, if no controller is specified, the value indicates whether or not the Lottie animation should be played automatically, therefore to true. So if false is set, I guess it will not be animated like this. See repeat to control whether the animation should repeat. Okay, so let's move back to the PyCharm or to the IDE, and we're going to increase the properties one by one. So the property I'm going to add now, let's look at the boolean properties. I have animate, repeat, reverse. So we move over here. This is, so at the top we are passing the properties. So for the boolean property, you say var, you say var and you say repeat, but repeat is a boolean property, so you say widget dot control dot attribute bool. Over here repeat is given. Okay, so this is it. You say var repeat, you need to precise this attribute bool so that it knows that, okay, I'm passing a boolean property. When it's a string you're passing, you use attribute string. When it's a double, you use attribute double. So that's how it's done. If you want to precise a default value, you can use this default value. So for the boolean, you can precise something like false as default value if you want, but I don't want to precise a default value simply because network accepts null values. So you see over here, repeat can take a null value because of this interrogation sign found here. So moving back to this, you see repeat, I'm going to remove the no default value, and as simple as it is, you just move over here and say repeat, and you give repeat, but I don't want to take this given from Codium. So you just give repeat, repeat. That's how simple it is. The next property we are going to add is, we have animate, we have reverse. So I'm going to copy this, what I did for the repeat, paste it twice, modify it to reverse, modify the next one to animate, and you just come over here and add them. That's how simple it is. Now you do it not just for the network, but you look at the assets. Does the asset take these properties equally? So asset takes animate, we can pass it animate, so we can pass it repeat, we can pass it reverse. So all of these three properties will also be passed to the asset because it takes those properties, it accepts those properties. So what about the memory? Does the memory accept such properties? The memory also has these three properties. So you move to the memory and add them also inside here. And if you don't want to add all the properties directly, you can just add step by step. So we have added three properties. We move to the lottie.py and we make sure we add those three properties over here so that we can use them in Python. So we added the repeat, which is a boolean, nice, from Codium. We added reverse, which is a boolean. We added animate, which is a boolean. So you move over here, you add those three properties. So Codium is really nice. And over here, repeat, property, repeat. The default value, it says unexpected argument, get attribute takes default value. It wrote it wrongly. So default value, and if you precise a default value, also make sure you give the data type. So the default data type is string. That's why we don't precise it over here, for instance. But when you're using another data type, something like boolean or double, then you modify it over here and say data type bool. So someone wrote in the chat, Guten Tag, Guten Tag. So I actually speak German also. So Guten Tag, Guten Tag. So over here we have the data type boolean and the default value. This is only for the property part of the repeat. So you move to the next part and it says repeat setter. So we are going to do this just once and then copy it for the other properties. If you don't want to do it as I did right now, so with Codium or something like that, you can just move to something that uses the boolean property. I think Markdown has a boolean, so you move to something like expand loss is found in control. So you can move to something like this. You find all instances of this one. You see how it is used. This is how it is used, and you copy how it is used over here, for instance. So you can copy all of these, and then no, what am I saying? Over here. So you see, you can copy all of these and directly use it inside the Lottie. So you just make the corresponding modifications. So, but I built this already. I'll copy from here, add it twice, reformat. So we have I think the next property was animate. Copy, you paste it over here, everywhere. So this is animate. You make sure everything is animate, and the default values. For the default values, I think we need to look at the documentation. So animate, the default value is true, for instance. So you can give it the default value over here to true. The next one is the next property we added was what was it? How is it called? Reverse. Okay. Oops. Reverse. So everything reverse, and it's also a boolean, so you leave the same data type. And let's look at this reverse. It says specify that all of this, it defaults to false. So the default is false. What about repeat? I guess repeat is true. Default is true. So make sure you modify the default values. Make sure you modify the default values to the default values of the API. Okay, so these are the three properties we are just from adding, and we can directly use them inside our application. But if you try to use them, for instance, let's say repeat, if you try to say repeat false, reverse false, I don't know, you're going to see over here, okay, it didn't It's not going to work. I was expecting an error message, but no error was shown. But it's not going to work simply because you did not refresh this. So I explained this clearly in the setup video. So you need to close this just for the playground. So the playground terminal, you need to close this and restart it. So it says over here, this control doesn't exist on control. That's normal, as I explained at the beginning. And over here we can try. So repeat. Let's say, oops, true. No, animate. Let's also added animate false. Okay. So as you can see, all what I'm doing has no effect because I didn't rebuild this client. So you need to come over to the client and press R, and then the client will be rebuilt. So you see nothing appears. Nothing appears inside here. I guess it's because of one of these properties. So repeat true, reverse false. Let's say animate true. So you see now it animates. But if you say animate false, it is not going to animate. So you see it gets blocked and it's not animating. So it shows that we've added, the property has been added successfully. So as expected. So you can say repeat, I don't know, false, but upon animation and say animate true. You see it animates just one time, but it doesn't repeat the animation constantly. So that's it. We have added 3 properties. You can now move to the Lottie once more. Have a look at the other properties. For instance, I'm not going to add everything. I just want to give you an overview. So this width and height, you don't need to add the width and height. Why don't you need to add width and height? This is simply because if you move to the Lottie, you're going to see over here the constraint control. This is the reason why we added constraint control, because constraint controls come with width and height already. So you don't need to add it once more. You don't need to add these 2 properties once more. Next step, or next property, we can have a look at what else. So the boolean, I'm not going to add this. You can already add this property. You just follow the same way we did it a while ago. So just come over here and then pass the repeat, and in the lottie.py, so in the py section, you add the property instead of init, and you pass it here as expected, or you add the getters and setters. So what property can we add again? This one, you're not going to add it. So you must not add every property you see. Not every property needs to be added, just the essential properties. So things you think they are essential for the user. So this one has different properties. Background loading is still boolean. Filter quality. Okay, let's add this filter quality. Let's add filter quality for the asset file. So filter quality, you can directly move, because I use this filter quality inside the video control. So an enum already exists for filter quality. So you can move to the video control. So that's why it's important to know the Flet architecture, so you know all the properties being used and so on. So you don't suffer, so you don't need to think a lot. So if you move to the video control, I made use of the, if you move to the video over here and you search for filter quality, so you can see over here I use the filter quality. So you can just copy what has been done for the filter quality. You move to your Lottie, and from here you just add it just below. Filter quality. Filter quality, it's at the moment unused. We can move to the asset file and say filter quality is filter quality. As simple as that. So you don't need to think, you don't need to overthink on how is it done, how. You don't need to overthink. You just add the filter quality, or you just copy what has been done in some other part of the application or of the framework, And over here, for instance, the filter quality, I gave it a default of low in the video. What is the default value inside the, what is the default value inside here? Filter quality, the quality of the image layer. So the default is low quality. So that's it. We have the low over here. If the default quality was high, for instance, you need to give high over here. So this value we are giving is the default value. So just to say, in case the user didn't provide a filter quality, what should we use? Let's use low. So that's the default. Move to the lottie.py and looking at the video also. Move to the video and you see the filter quality. Where did I use it? So this is the filter quality enum. You can search for filter quality and you're going to see it over here. So we have the filter quality one. You copy this, you move to your Lottie and you add it. So you import this from, not from Flet Core, but from Flet Core video. Where is it? Filter quality from fletcore.video. Import the filter quality. The next step, you add it over here to the init and you do this. So just copy all what has been done, move to lottie.py, add it over here and add it below. So that's how simple it is, and you've added the filter quality and now it is ready for use on the inside the test changes. And always make sure to reload this Flutter terminal or this client terminal, and make sure to reload this playground terminal also. So you break this and you restart, but this you just restart it with the capital R. So that's how it's done. The next step, let's try to give a look if there's another property we can implement. Alignment, we can implement alignment. You can copy it from something like the container or the row or the column. The package is a string. You can do it as we did for the SRC. So you just use the attribute string. The next, the box fit, you can copy it from the image. If you want, we can do that. You can copy the box fit from the image. I think image uses box fit. So you come over here to the image and you see this is the fit. It uses pass box fit and then fit. You just copy this. You move to your lottie.dat. You add it over here and you say widget.control because we are using a stateful widget. Widget.control, and as simple as it is, you just come to the asset. I think this is where it is. Yeah, you come to the asset, lottie.asset, and add it there. Fit. Let me reformat this. So you look, does the network also have a fit property? Network also has a fit, so you can give it over here a fit. Does the memory have a fit property? It also has a fit. So that's how you do it. Quite simple. That's how simple it is. On the Python end, you also move to the image and you copy. I'm looking for the image, You look for fit. So you search fit. You copy all of this and you just add it below. So it uses image fit. You import that image fit string. I'm going to get rid of this. You can leave it, but I personally want to get rid of it because over here I'm going to say set attribute if its instance. I'm going to use a ternary operator. and remove this. So feed needs to be created. That was not the only instance. When you start from the top, you're going to see it was used. Okay, we need to add it inside the init obviously. So you see feed, and you add it over here, and that's all. So that's how simple it is, and you can refresh your terminals to use it directly. So perhaps turn on notifications. Mr. Newton, I don't know how to do that. I don't know where notifications should be turned on. So I didn't see that. Or I don't know where it's done. Maybe you can let me know or tell me how it is done. But I personally don't know how to turn on the notifications. Alright guys, so that's quite everything. That's everything. We can perhaps open a PR or commit the changes first. We can commit the changes and open a PR to the Flet repo. I'm going to do that, I think, later on after this video. Commit the changes and open a PR to the Flet repo for the addition of the Lottie control. So if there's any question you have, please paste it in the chat so I can have a look at it. But I think I'm done for this video. I don't want it to be very long, but I just want to give an overview or a global overview of how this is done in Flet, or of how a package can be implemented, or a control can be implemented from a package. So guys, please let me know if there is any additional thing you want me to talk of. But apart from that, I think I've touched every point. Okay. What can I do? Maybe commit the changes now, or should I commit them later on? Let me move to the Flet repo. So the Flet roadmap. So I'm just going to assign myself the issue, but I'm not going to commit the changes right now. So over here, Flet, and then let's see. I'm going to assign myself the issue and mention that it is in progress, and that should be all. So if you open the issue, I'm building it right now, and I'm going to get it done today. So finish by adding all the remaining properties and open up a PR in the Flet repo. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you found this interesting and you've learned how to add a new control from a package. So if there's any question, please just drop them in the chat before I stop the live stream. That should be all for me. So really, thanks for having watched this video. Please, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I really hope you subscribe to encourage me to go further. If there's any particular package or control you want me to implement, just let me know and I will see how I can do a video on that. And please, packages from the roadmap, because we are trying to get this roadmap done. We are trying to get this roadmap done before the end of May, so before May 2024. At the moment, I am building the Lottie. Perhaps in the next video, I'm going to build another control, maybe the camera. So just let me know if there's any control you want me to build for next week or for anytime. I think next week we are going to have another session like this if you guys liked it. But please let me know, definitely drop me feedbacks in the comments. And if you start building your own control and you face difficulties, you can contact me on Discord. So you move to the Flet Discord and you ping the Ethical Boy and I will be right there. So guys, I'm waiting for your feedbacks, maybe on YouTube or on Discord in the private chat. I'm really waiting. Bro, this for me. Mr. Newton, I don't understand what you mean. But I think we can continue the conversation on Discord. So guys, thanks for having watched once more. And I hope to see you in the next video. Please don't forget to drop your feedbacks. This is my first YouTube stream. I hope it went well. I hope at least you could hear my voice. I hope the video quality is also good. If there is anything, please drop them inside the chat and I will be pleased, or I will definitely reply.